أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قول والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome back everyone for our Quran class as we are going through as many ayahs of the Quran as we can on a daily basis, a small dosage, and really just trying to understand this beautiful book that has been sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us. We are in the midst of Surah Yusuf, and in the middle of the story where he has been falsely accused of a crime that never happened, and the Aziz's wife wanted to seduce him, and he kept ignoring or rejecting that request, and now the politicians found a way to basically seize him and jail him just so that the scandal wouldn't break out of not just the Aziz's wife, but in general the other women in their spouses wouldn't go around saying things or doing things, right? So the one of the last verses we read was like ثُمَّ بَعْدَ لَهُم مِّن بَعْدِ, right? After time, in a short time, they thought it was best, and they being the ministers, right, the different social elites, they thought it was best that they should imprison him. And then we started the story of once he was in prison, there, he had this really spiritual aura around him that he would be so caring, and in the Tafsir went actually in great detail talking about some of the things that he would do, and the positive vibes that he would really just share with the fellow prisoners and fellow inmates. And one of them, what really caught me was mentioned, he really just gave decency to each of those beings, and he treated them with decency, and that's what the prisoners would love. And so one of them, these prisoners who had actually entered with him while he was entering into prison, they narrated a dream that they had, and another also shared their dream, right? So the dream was that the person said, I was dreaming that I was pressing grapes, right? قال أحدهم إني أراني أعصر خمرة, that I'm making wine, or I'm pressing grapes to make wine. And then the other one, he said, أحمل فوق رأسي خبزا تأكل الطير منه, I was carrying bread on my head and the birds were eating from it, right? So tell us what these dreams mean. And so notice what Yusuf alayhi salam's response to this is. He says, قال لا يأتيكم طعام ترزقانه إلا نبأتكم بتأويله قبل أن يأتيكم. And he said, I can tell you what these means before the meals arrive, right? So obviously they're in jail. They're going to have a set schedule of when the meal times are. So Yusuf salam may have noticed that, okay, I have 10, 15 minutes or whatever that time period was before this next meal was going to come, and so let me take this opportunity to do some to kind of give some dawah, right? But at the same time, before he goes into it, before he jumps into it, he gets their permission, or he acknowledges the duration of how long he would take to basically to talk to them for, right? And this was such a courteous thing, because Yusuf could have said, hey, you guys don't have anywhere to go, I don't have anywhere to go, let's talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the deen and tawheed and all of these things first, right? And then I'll get to the definition or the meanings of your dream in a little bit. But rather what he says was, hey, if you guys spare me a few minutes, I'll tell you before your meals arrive, I can tell you what those mean. But let me tell you something else as well. Like that's kind of the phrasing that's kind of being shared here. ذَلِكُم مِّمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. And this is part of what my Lord has taught me. And so even on the onset of all of it, he is explaining that what I'm about to tell you is not from me, it is coming from a divine revelation. ذلكم مما علمني ربي إني تركت ملة قوم لا يؤمنون بالله. Indeed, I reject the faith, or I've left the faith. And millah is like an ideology that people come together because of like emotional connection, or and we say millat Ibrahim Hanifa, right? That the millah of Ibrahim, that's the pure straight path. So I've left the millat qawmi, the path or the faith of those of my people, of the people, la yu'minuna billah, those who disbelieve in God. وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. And so notice how the hum is being repeated, right? And they, in the hereafter, they have no belief in them. They have absolutely no belief in the hereafter. And this is to highlight the reason why they were willing to practice the things that they were able to practice, right? The household that he's come up in the Aziz's home, right? They weren't afraid of the consequences of what they were going to do, right? The women were not afraid, so they were openly claiming that, hey, I did try to seduce him, I did want to sleep with him. And on the other hand, the ministers and the Azizes and the various other socialists, they didn't fear that they would be accountable for unjustly putting a boy in prison. And so, وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. The only reasons that they were able to do what they were able to do and they got away with it, in a sense, is because they don't believe in a hereafter, so their conscience is not guilty because of it. وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ أَبِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. And now he's going and explaining to them that I am on the millah of my father Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ishaq alayhi salam and Yaqub alayhi salam. Right? ما كان لنا أن نشرك بالله من شيء. Because it's not appropriate that we associate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anything, any type of partners. So now, as I mentioned, he is addressing them on the idea of Tawheed. That first he explained to them the reason why there's so much corruption in the social class is because they don't believe in the hereafter. Now, I am on the path of my forefather Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub alayhi salam, and it is not appropriate that we provide any do any shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with anything. ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. And that is from the bounty. That is from the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us. وَعَلَى النَّاسِ. And upon mankind. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. However, most people, they are not grateful. However, most people are ungrateful. Now, very interesting that the surah, the ayah started with مَا كَانَ لَنَا أَن نُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, that we don't worship anything but Allah. And the ending is, you would expect it to be that وَلَكِنْ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ, like they are, however, most people, they are mushrikun, right? And it's very similar. The verbiage is not mushrikun, but it's la yashkurun, right? Even shukr and shirk, there's a very similar resemblance in the word. But the fact that he captures it by saying the reason that makes them into what they are, i.e. mushrikun or unjust or dhalimun, is the fact that they are la yashkurun, that they are ungrateful. They have these faculties from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have this wealth, the status, but yet they are still so ungrateful. Ya sahib as-sijn. And now he is addressing the prisoners, right? And he's saying, Ya sahib as-sijn, oh fellow prisoner. And even like I mentioned, the reason why people in the prison felt that they could trust, they saw Yusuf as an honest man, is because of his moral character towards the fellow prisoners. And so he's addressing them, even as he claimed that I am in here unjustly. He told them that, right? That I don't belong here. but even as he is in here, he's not telling you, oh, you prisoners, oh, you guys who've been doing so much wrong, you did this and that. No, he says, oh, my fellow prisoner, meaning you are here and I am here, so you are my companion. Ya sahib as-sijn. أأرباب متفرقون خير? Would many diverse gods, the worship of gods, is many gods, is that better? Amillah wahid, or the one God, al-Qahhar, the one who is powerful? Which one makes more sense? To be worshipping multiple deities, or just one Allah, the one who is Qahhar, the one who is all powerful? ما تعبدون من دونه إلا أسماء سميتموها. All of those things you worship, right? You don't worship anything except asma'a sammaytumuha, names, mere names that antum wa aba'ukum, that you and your forefathers have invented. Sammaytumuha. You and your forefathers have invented them, these names, and that is what you are now taking on as deities. Right? And just historically, these are we're talking about the Egyptian era, and from just studying what was being worshipped in ancient Egypt. There's these false deities and gods that have been given status, and even sometimes they're the various pharaoh, the family of the pharaoh itself, and they get to be worshipped, right? And so what Yusuf alayhi salam is saying is just names that you've provided. Ma anzalallahu biha min sultan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give them any sanction, any a right or authority. In al hukmu illa lillah, and true authority, true hukum, it belongs to no one other. It belongs to absolutely no one except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amara alla ta'budu illa iyyah, right? And He orders you to worship Him, that you worship no one except Him. Amara alla ta'budu illa iyyah. He orders you that you worship absolutely no one other than Him. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. And that is the true faith. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. However, most people do not realize it, or they don't attempt to understand. Ya sahib as-sijn. Again, you see him addressing this fellow prisoner in respect. أَمَّا أَحَدُكُمَا فَيَسْقِي رَبَّهُ خَمْرًا. And now he's coming to the actual ta'bir, the actual interpretation of the dream. So we see up to this point, right, the khutbah that he gave, the short reminder that he gave, and he basically laid out the principles of Tawheed, and he's trying to help them to realize that you are here in this place now, and yes, you may have committed something, not necessarily associating partners with Allah, but you have committed a wrong in society, hence leading you into being into prison. And so now what you need to do is rectify your relationship with God in order to rectify your relationship with society, right? So he's kind of giving them the big picture here. He's helping them see. And then he gets to the actual interpretation. أَمَّا أَحَدُكُمَا فَيَسْقِي رَبَّهُ خَمْرًا. And one of you, he will be serving his master with wine. وَأَمَّا الْآخَرُ. And the other one, فَيُسْلَبُ. You will be crucified. فَتَأْكُلُ الطَّيْرُ مِنْ رَأْسِهِ. And the birds are going to be pecking at your head, and they'll be eating from your head, right? قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ. And that is the matter on which you have asked my opinion. That is what's going to be the outcome of what the interpretations of the outcome of what your dreams are. Now, it was really interesting in Ma'arif al-Quran, the author, he was mentioning that this was also Mufti Muhammad Shafi was mentioning that this was also a test, in a sense, that these two individuals, they actually said they saw the dream. They said they saw the dream, and then they got the interpretation of the dream. And once they got the interpretation of the dream, they actually said, "Oh, we actually didn't see that. We were just testing you. We just wanted to see what you would say," right? And in response to that, Yusuf alayhi salam said, "قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ." And so even if that was a false narration of a dream, this will be the end of what you guys like. This would be the end of the matter. Like this will happen because of what you have asked, right? So that was also one of the thoughts that was presented in this tafsir. وَقَالَ لِلَّذِينَ ظَنَّ أَنَّهُ نَاجٍ مِّنْهُمَا. And Yusuf alayhi salam said to the one who is going to be saved, نَاجٍ مِّنْهُمَا, the one who will be saved, اذكرني عند ربك, mention me to your master. Mention me. So now Yusuf interpreted the dream, and he said, one of you is going to be serving wine. He's going to be serving to the master, right? Meaning to the king. And so when you are there, when you get there, right? And again, Yusuf knows that this is it's been interpreted qudi amra. It's going to happen now, and so he's trying to set a way for him out. And he says, so mention me to your master. فَأَنْسَاهُ الشَّيْطَانُ ذِكْرًا. And then immediately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kind of interjects, and he says, but shaitan made him forget to do this. And dhikra rabbihi, that to mention him with his Lord. فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بَعْدَ سِنِينَ. And so Yusuf alayhi salam remained in prison for a number of years. And بِعْدَ سِنِينَ, بِدْعَ سِنِينَ. So فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِدْعَ سِنِينَ. And so Yusuf alayhi salam remained in prison for a number of years. And bid'ah in this context is typically used for a duration between 3 to 9 years, right? And some of us mentioned that it was about 7 years, that additional years that Yusuf alayhi salam remained imprisoned after this incident took place, right? So that he narrated the dream to his fellow prison mate, and he told the prison mate, hey, tell him that I'm to take me to remember me when you leave. And he forgot, and he remained there for an additional 7 years. وقال الملك إني أرى 7 بقرات سمان يأكلوهن 7 عجاف و7 سنبلات خضر وأخرى يابسات. So now the king, sometime later, he's having this dream. The king is having a dream, and that dream is being narrated, and he's seeing, I have dreamed 7 بقرات. I've dreamed about 7 fat cows, right? 7 بقرات سمان يأكلوهن 7 عجاف. The 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 lean cows. عجاف وسبع, right? وسبع سنبلات خضر وأخرى يابسات. And I see 7 ears of corn, or the grains, you can say, that are coming out, right? and وأخرى يابسات, and 7 others that are withered. Ya ayyuhal mala, O counselors. So now the king, he's seen this weird dream, and he's calling to the council of his chamber, right? He's saying to his senators, to his congressmen, to the chieftains of his court, and aftuni fi ru'ya. Aftuni fi ru'ya. So he's saying, can you interpret this dream? Can you interpret this dream? And remember, we talked about the different words for dream, the interpretation of dreams, right? So afta, right? Aftuni here. This is like the difficult interpretation. Like this is something that's difficult. So he's realizing that there's something that's not easy. So he's using afta here, right? And the word mufti comes from afta, right? So في الرؤيا إن كنتم للرؤيا تعبرون, that if you are able, tell me the meaning, if you are able to interpret dreams. الرؤيا تعبرون, if you guys are in fact interpreters of dream. And so they said قالوا أضغاث أحلام, أضغاث أحلام, and they said, this is just confusing dreams. They're pointless. They're bad dreams, just useless. Adghath in Arabic is like just trash, basically, withered trash. So وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ بِعَالَمِينَ. So and we're not that skilled at dream interpretation. This isn't something that we would be able to answer for you. And again, isn't something you should spend any time over. It's just something that happened, and you should forget about it. So they were trying to comfort him in that manner. And while all this commotion is going on, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ نَجَا مِنْهُمَا. Now we're using the same words that Yusuf alayhi salam, نَجَا مِنْهُمَا. So the one who was saved between the two, he's overhearing, he's bringing wine or whatever to the king, and he's in the court of the king, and he's seeing the senators having these discussions, and the chieftains are having this discussion, and they're calling this king's dream crazy. And all of a sudden he has this thought, وَادَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ أَنَا أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِتَأْوِيلِهِ. And then at last he remembered, right? He remembered. وَادَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ. And he said, I shall tell you what this means. Give me a leave. فَأَرْسِلُونِي. Right? Let me go, basically. Give me some time off. So he saw in his interest that if I was able to provide some value to the king's court, maybe I'll get a promotion. Maybe I'll get something out of it in return. And so he saw this opportunity, and he's now asking for some leave. And the next ayah basically takes us to now Yusuf, this prisoner, he has made it to Yusuf alayhi salam, and now he's saying to Yusuf alayhi salam, Yusufu ayyuha siddiq, O Yusuf, oh dear friend, oh the truthful Yusuf. He's like buttering him up. He's like, my bad, man, I forgot you for 7 years in the prison. Like, I totally didn't forget about you, but this is the time that came now. So he's trying to work him up. Aftina fi sab'i baqaratin simanin. And so you see him immediately jump, and he says, tell us, interpret for us. Aftina. And then he starts just jumping right into the dream. في سبع بقرات سمان يأكلوهن سبع عجاف وسبع سنبلات خضر وأخرى يابسات. Right? So he narrates the whole dream. Tell us the meaning of the 7 fat cows being eaten by the 7 lean cows, and the 7 green ears of corn, and the 7 others which are withered. What is the meaning of that? Right? And again, aftina, that complicated translation of it. لَعَلِّي أَرْجِعُ إِلَى النَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. So that perhaps I can return to the people and inform them. This is for the greater good of society, Yusuf. You should do this so that, don't do it for me, do it for the people. That's the kind of attitude he's trying to play to Yusuf alayhi salam. And so Yusuf alayhi salam, he responds, تَزْرَعُونَ سَبْعَ سِنِينَ دَأَبًا فَمَا حَسَدْتُمْ فَذَرُوهُ فِي سُنْبُلِهِ. So you will sow, Yusuf alayhi salam is telling him, you will sow 7 years da'aban, as usual, normal, everything is happening as you would. فَمَا حَسَدْتُمْ فَذَرُوهُ فِي سُنْبُلِهِ. So what you do is you store all that you reap, and you leave it in the ear itself. You don't extract it. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِمَّا تَأْكُلُونَ. Except for the little that you're going to eat. So meaning that if you don't extract the grain out of it, then it would stay in a preserved state for a long period of time, basically. And this was from the wisdom and hikmah of Yusuf alayhi salam, that he was able to narrate, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed him to narrate. Right? ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ. And then after that, what's going to come? سَبْعٌ شِدَادٌ. 7 tough years. 7 tough years. Shadid, right? From Shadid, Shidadun. يَأْكُلْنَا مَا قَدَّمْتُمْ لَهُنَّ. And you will eat in them whatever little you put forth. Whatever you had saved, you will eat from them. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِمَّا تُحْسِنُونَ. And whatever you stored up in that time. Whatever you had put in a silo is literally like what you had put in a silo, if you want to imagine it. So in those 7 years, whatever you had saved from the first 7 years, you're going to be rationing it out and distributing it to eat that, because it's going to be tough years. It's going to be years of drought, right? ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ. And then after that is going to come عَامٌ فِيهِ يُغَاثُ النَّاسِ. It's going to be a year with abundant abundant rain. يغاث الناس, people will be drenched in rain. وفيه يعصرون, and you will be able to press juices from it. Meaning it's going to be so much good rain, so much nice rain, that there's going to be a good amount of supply that's going to come from that year. وقال الملك, and then the Malik said, "Tuni bihi." Right? He heard this. In parentheses, the guy went and he told the king that this is what the narration is, and so the king says, "Tuni bihi." Bring him to me. Whoever told you this, bring him to me. Right? And so even then, the man, whoever was giving the translation of this dream, the narration of this dream, immediately the king replied, "It wasn't that. This isn't coming from you. You got this from somewhere else, right? So bring that source to me." فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُ الرَّسُولُ, and so when the messenger came to him, came to who? Came to Yusuf alayhi salam. Right? Because the king called for him. The person said, "Okay, I got it from the prisoner that you have in your cell. He's over there. You can go and get him." And so the king said, "Okay, go fetch him." The messenger who went to fetch him, he came and قال ارجع ارجع إلى ربك فاسأله ما بال النسوة التي قطعن أيديهن. And so Yusuf alayhi salam, he has his ticket to freedom, basically. Right? He has his ticket to freedom, that the king is calling for him. The interpretation was accepted, and at that point he says, فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُ الرُّسُلُ قَالَ ارْجِعْ إِلَى رَبِّكَ فَاسْأَلْهُ مَا بَالُ النِّسْوَةِ الَّتِي قَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ. So go back. He's like, "I'm not coming out." He said, "Go back to your Lord and ask him." What are you asking about? النِّسْوَةُ الَّتِي قَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ. Ask him about the women who cut their hands. Inna Rabbi, indeed my Lord, بِكَيْدِهِنَّ عَلِيمٌ, he is aware of their plots. And here again, the Rabbi could be referring to the Aziz, who would be sitting as one of the courtiers in the palace of the king. Right? So what the message was, go back to the king, ask him about the women that cut their hands. And if the king is like, what are you talking about? Tell him, my Lord, the one who I used to work for, he knows their plot. He's aware of their plot. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he wanted to clear his name first. He wanted to clear his name in this out of this. And so on this occasion, it was amazing. There's a report in Sahih Bukhari with the narration by Abu Hurairah anhu, and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he said, "If I had been in prison for as long as Yusuf alayhi salam had been, and had I been summoned for release, I would have accepted it immediately." And this is to show to highlight the patience and the sabr of Yusuf alayhi salam, and the level of moral integrity that this person had. He had his ticket out. He had the golden ticket to just say, "Yep, I'm out. I've been here all this time unjustly. I'm out." No, but he's like, "No, I want to clear my name." قَالَ مَا خَطْبُكُنَّ. And so the king said, "What is your case?" And he's talking to the women. إِذْ رَاوَدْتُنَّ يُوسُفَ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. When you seduced Yusuf alayhi salam. قُلْنَا حَاشَا لِلَّهِ. And they said, remember we talked about Hasha lillah, like that's similar to Subhanallah. He's like, "Oh my Lord, ma alimna alayhi min su." We knew absolutely no evil from him. We knew absolutely no evil from him. So now the truth is starting to surface, right? The women are being brought to court to testify, and they are saying, no, he is not at fault here at all. قالت امرأة العزيز. And so now everyone's looking at the Imra'atul Aziz, the wife of the Aziz, right? How come this person is in jail? What's wrong? And Al-an hashas al-haq. This is what she says. Now the truth has come to light. Now that everything has surfaced, now the evidence is all up out there. حصحص الحق أنا راودته عن نفسه وإنه لمن الصادقين. I was the one that tried to seduce him, and he is of the truthful. Right? So she now acknowledges that. She herself basically removes the blame from Yusuf alayhi salam. ذلك ليعلم أني لم أخنه بالغيب. And that, and Yusuf alayhi salam is saying, that is so that you may know that I am not one who betrayed him in his absence. So he also wanted to make sure that the person who had given him a residence for the time that he was in Egypt, that he didn't think that Yusuf alayhi salam betrayed him in his own household. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not guide the plots of the ones who are betray. Right? So Yusuf alayhi salam is bringing that to light and mentioning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let this pass. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ الْأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. Then I do not absolve my inner blame. أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. I don't take any blame off of my soul either. Right? Bara'a, we've been seeing that word come up in the previous 3 or 4 surahs, that of disassociation. So he's saying, I don't disassociate myself either. I also have inclinations. My nafs, my soul, my lower self also has desires. Right? So this is showing the humanity of Yusuf alayhi salam. He is telling us that you are not alone. We are not alone when we have these desires. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ الْأَمَّارَةُ بِالسُّوءِ. And surely man's inner self often incites to evil. الْأَمَّارَةُ بِالسُّوءِ. Right? It's going to want to do evil. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. Except for the one who my Lord has shown mercy to. إِنَّ رَبِّي غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And surely my Lord is most forgiving and most merciful. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ أَسْتَخْلِصْهُ لِنَفْسِي. And so now the king says, now he says, bring him to me. Again, ائْتُونِي بِهِ. Bring him to me. أَسْتَخْلِصْهُ لِنَفْسِي. I shall bring him and I shall make him work only for myself. I will keep him specifically for myself. Right? You know, as a servant, as a khadim, I want to keep him myself. I don't want him to be dealing with, these corrupt individuals. The king first-handed saw how this individual was unjustly imprisoned for an extended period of time. فَلَمَّا كَلَّمَهُ. Then when he started talking to him. Right? So now the conversation's happening. The Yusuf alayhi salam is being brought out, and the king is getting to talk to him, and he's realizing, man, this boy, this is a really smart kid. He knows what he's talking about. قَالَ إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَ مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. And so immediately he offers him a job. He says, today you are with us, and you're going to be accommodated for, and you're fully trusted, and you'll be taken care of. Right? Makinun amin, you have a safe, nice place to stay with us. So now the king, realizing that Yusuf is sharp, he offered him a position and allowed him a safe sanctuary. قَالَ اجْعَلْنِي عَلَى خَزَائِنِ الْأَرْضِ. And now Yusuf alayhi salam, he, in his own wisdom, he speaks up. And he says, اجْعَلْنِي عَلَى خَزَائِنِ الْأَرْضِ. Make me the supervisor of the treasures of the land. Don't just make me the secretary, make me in charge of the treasury. That's what Yusuf said. And now, it is a fairly bold statement to make, right? You just came out of prison, you're talking to the king, and he sees the value in you, and he's appointed you a good position, right? Makinun amin. And at that, in response to that, you're asking for, no, give me a promotion. Make me the head of state, basically, the head of treasury, sorry. But we have to see, from Yusuf alayhi salam's perspective, right? He has been given hikmah and ilm. And now, seeing the opportunity, he wants to convey to the king that, what we're in for is going to be a very tough next years that are coming. Right? based on the revelation, based on the interpretation of the dream, this is going to be a very tough situation that we're going to be in. And you've already seen how corrupt your courtiers are, your congressmen, your senators, your chieftains. And so if you want to make sure that we follow through with what the interpretation of that is, inni hafidhun alim. My credentials for this job is that I am hafiz and I am alim. I am a knowledgeable keeper. I am going to honor and protect what this is, what this position, and I am knowledgeable of it as well as what is required. وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Now this is the second time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is interjecting the statement in Surah Yusuf. Right? وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا. Again, it's to kind of alleviate to what the Bani Israel were asking the Prophet ﷺ and the Yahud of there. They were asking, like, how did the Israelites get established in Egypt? And وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. By extension, this is how we establish Yusuf on this earth and on the earth, and by extension, the rest of Bani Israel. يَتَبَوَّأَ مِنْهَا حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. Then he could settle wherever he wished there. And yatabawwa is like really nicely settled. Look around for a nice place, figure out where it's going to be, making sure that this is where he wants it. And this is the first time Yusuf is actually being given the opportunity to make this type of a decision for himself. Nusibu bi rahmatina man yasha, and we show our mercy. We extend our mercy to whomever we will. وَلَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, and we do not waste the reward of those who do good indeed. Right? And again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is highlighting the quality of Yusuf alayhi salam that got him to where he is here is al-muhsinin. The idea of ihsan. The idea of having that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you're always trying to strive for perfection. وَلَا أَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. But immediately, right after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained to him that, now you have the perfect house, the best position, the money that you wanted, Yusuf alayhi salam went from, the lowest of the lows, from the pits, to basically being one of the most senior advisors to the king directly, right? You would have thought that he won the jackpot. He has gotten it all now, right? Immediately after, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds him, وَالْآخِرُ وَالْأَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ, and the reward of the hereafter, خَيْرٌ لِلَّذِينَ, is surely better. No matter what you have, it's definitely that's better. لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ, for the ones who believe and who have fear in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Yusuf alayhi salam, he overcame so much hardship, so much difficulty, and now he's about to indulge in this plethora of goodness and khair. But even then, وَالْأَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ, right? The reward of the hereafter is way better. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows us to keep that mindset, that foresight, that the ajrun al-akhirah is always better, and that we consistently strive towards that which is the ultimate pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'll conclude here. وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.